Welcome to the second session of the 2022 Student Ethics Symposium. My name is Nathan Tucker. I'm a research assistant with the Center for the Study of Ethics, and I am honored and delighted to introduce our two presenters for this session. So we'll be hearing from Elena Satt and Caleb Olmore. They're both philosophy majors here at UVU. Elena will be presenting on the anti-vax world in the age of COVID-19. Caleb will be presenting on Alex Jones and the Sandy Hook shootings. So we'll have both presentations following each other with 10 minutes for Q&A at the end. So think of questions. Without further ado, let me introduce Elena.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right, the anti-vax world in the age of COVID-19. So to begin, I'm going to define conspiracy theory and anti-vax. Conspiracy is a group of two or more people planning to do something unlawful or harmful. A conspiracy theory is an explanation for events that suggests there is a group conspiring behind it. Often the suspects of conspiracy have wealth, influence, and power that allows them to accomplish their goals. They may also be groups that a theorist already suspects of being corrupt. In the mind of the theorist, it is unlikely that events are coincidental, instead intentionally brought about by conspirators. Anti-vax. This is used in describing a community that opposes past or current vaccines because they believe they are dangerous. The anti-vaxxers who oppose the COVID-19 vaccine. Concerns about vaccine safety does not automatically mean you believe in conspiracy theory, but conspiracy theorists within the anti-vax community also have concerns about vaccine safety. There are two big conspiracy theories that have existed prior to the pandemic and have assimilated the aspect of a COVID-19 vaccine: order theory and the big pharma theory. First, let's talk about the big pharma theory. This theory, just throw it fine. This theory, its main tenet is that pharmaceutical companies, along with the general medical community, operate with sinister purposes against the public good. They want to increase wealth and power by suppressing alternative medicine and are willing to falsify data and sell deadly products to do so. Outside of COVID-19, the big pharma theory includes denying HIV as the cause of AIDS, denying germ theory, blaming radiation from cell phones as the cause of cancer, and saying the rise of autoimmune diseases and allergies is intentional because a sick population funds profits. This theory goes side by side with a history of vaccine resistance and general alternative medicine. There is a point where the alternative information proffered by these communities stretches too far away from a common consensus that they conclude that the scientific community and pharmaceutical companies must be deliberately conspiring and misinforming the public. Often the theorists sell natural alternatives to the many health-related products that they complain about. The people who theorize about big pharma are the longtime anti-vaxxers and the alternative medicine supporters. They represent a more diverse group politically. Most of the COVID-19 vaccine resistance has happened on the political right, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., nephew to John F. Kennedy, who comes from a famously Democratic family, has become a major figure in the anti-vax world today. This theory suspects that COVID-19 vaccines cause heart problems, infertility, autoimmunity, and that it alters DNA. It also claims that Big Pharma has produced false evidence to suppress medicines such as hydroxychloroquine, which is a drug used to treat malaria. Hydroxychloroquine was being tested as a potential treatment option, failed to be effective. The Big Pharma theory suggests that the removal of hydroxychloroquine's approval for COVID-19, along with other the work of conspiracy. This is the New World Order theory. In this theory, there is a secretly emerging totalitarian government through a satanic cabal, which seeks to replace sovereign nation-states, incorporate digital currency, and reduce population. This infographic is one example of this conspiracy theory. As you see, they accuse many wealthy, influential people, such as the Rothschilds family, George Soros, and Bill Gates. This version of the theory also suspects that the Black Lives Matter protests and the pandemic were both planned in order to create chaos so that the New World Order might be brought about. This theory's general principles emerged during the Cold War because of a fear of communism and an increasingly global world. This theory is similar to QAnon conspiracy theory, and so more recently, terms like the deep state have been used to describe a government within a government that is a satanic cabal. This theory resonates more with anti-communist, anti-government, right-wing groups, and fundamentalist Christians who anticipate the end of times before the return of Jesus Christ. In the bottom left, you'll see the famous microchip in the vaccine. Next, I'll explain where that idea came from. The microchip theory was created and spread through online content surrounding Bill Gates. On March 18, 2020, Bill Gates pledged $1.75 billion towards international pandemic aid. This same day, he logged on to Reddit to answer questions. He speculated there that in the future, we are likely to carry digital health records, such as an e-vaccine card. The next day, a Swedish website, biohackinfo.com, that supports implantable microchips, among other cybernetic biohacks, saw this post by Bill Gates as an opportunity to advocate for microchip usage. They wrote an article on their website with the headline, "Bill Gates will use microchip implants to fight coronavirus." In an interview, the site's administrator admitted that it was in jump-in logic to say the microchips will be used, but they had wanted to get the idea out there as part of biohacking advocacy. Though it was not received warmly, this advocacy did succeed in sharing the idea of a microchip. This alarming idea spread to a man named Adam Fannin, a Baptist pastor from Jacksonville, Florida, who runs a YouTube channel. His 9-minute sermon posted on the channel made the final connection, adding the word vaccine to what was created by the biohackers, titling it, "Bill Gates, Microchip Vaccine Implants to Fight Coronavirus." Fannin declared the microchip in the vaccine the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is a signal of allegiance with Satan, and it comes from an interpretation of the book of Revelation in the Bible. Fannin's video quickly gained 1.6 million views, and the theory sprawled into social media. A post that added to this conspiracy theory on Instagram and Facebook had fragments of an interview with Jay Walker, executive chairman of Abject Systems. The corporation had received a $590 million loan from the government to produce pre-filled injectors for the COVID-19 vaccine, and he was there to answer questions about their system. The interviewer asked about the optional RFID chip, referencing the option to include a radio frequency identification chip as part of the syringe's label or packaging, but not the substance inside. Walker never said the chip was injectable and acknowledged that the government hadn't yet decided to use the technology, but because he pointed to one of the pre-filled syringes in his hand as he talked about the RFID's chip's ability to track information, such as if the vaccine had expired, viewers automatically assumed it was the injectable chip from Bill Gates. Comments of these posts are full of references to the mark of the beast, such as, "I feel the need to read the book of Revelations after watching this nightmare," and "Satan is pushing the vaccine." In a poll conducted on May 20th and 21st in 2020, which was in the height of when this idea was spreading, 44% of Republicans and 19% of Democrats believed that Bill Gates was plotting to use a mass COVID-19 vaccination campaign to implant microchips into billions of people. Conspiracy theories are actually very fluid. The mistrust that theories have for different groups of people can overlap quite a bit and make it more of a spectrum. These two theories, Big Pharma and the New World Order, share distrust of government agencies and leaders. Some theorists may interpret the Big Pharma theory as evidence for the New World Order theory as an example of corruption in just one aspect of the government. In the end, both theories agree that the biggest threat you should be concerned about in the pandemic isn't the virus itself. These common threads of mistrust lead to a flow of information and believers between theories. So who spreads these ideas? These are the disinformation dozen. The Center for Countering Digital Hate found that in a sample of anti-vax content on Facebook and Twitter, shared over a month and a half in 2021, 65% of it was attributable to 12 people. If not shared by their individual posts, the content was still produced on their websites or by their organizations before somebody else posted it. They subscribe to different conspiracy theories and have different backgrounds, but they are united in their opposition to the COVID-19 vaccine. Adding to this list of people who spread anti-vax content, I will add Simone Gold, founder of America's Frontline Doctors. How do these ideas spread? It spreads through mainstream social media platforms. It also spreads on Rumble, which is a YouTube-like platform but without the same community guidelines about misinformation, allowing theorists to post content more freely. It spreads through documentaries, through books, and physical tours across the country, along with the websites and organizations is owned by members of the Disinformation Dozen. The Children's Health Defense is owned by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So why does it spread? The greatest strength when it comes to the endurance of these theories is that they are highly individualizable. The differences between believers of conspiracy theories, especially those who play a major role in perpetuating them, gives the theories flexibility to appeal to more audiences. Starting small, we can talk about the differences in personality through websites. Sherry Tenpenny and Christine Northrup are both part of the Disinformation Dozen. They have quite a bit in common, including being anti-vax, believing the election of 2020 was stolen from Donald Trump, supporting broader conspiracy theories such as the New World Order and QAnon. But despite their similarities, there are a few things that make them different, allowing them to collectively appeal to a broader audience. Tenpenny's website is very urgent. She offers survivalist classes and advertises encrypted cell phones. Northrup's website takes a softer approach. She focuses on women's issues and emphasizes spirituality, with concerns that the COVID-19 vaccine could alter your ability to have empathy. The differences in tone can make these two favored by different audiences, but both would lead you against the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm on institutional distress already. In the New World Order, the Black Lives Matter protests were only for the purpose of causing lawlessness and division to bring about the New World Order. This invalidates concerns about institutional racism because it would make protests nothing more than a diversion. This limits the appeal of the theory to those who don't have concerns about institutional racism. In the Big Pharma Theory, on the other hand, proponents of the theory bring up a history of institutionalized racism in the form of medical experiments such as the Tuskegee experiment, where African American men with syphilis were left untreated at the time when treatment became available to watch the progression of the disease. The Big Pharma theorists interpret efforts to make sure minority communities have access to the COVID-19 vaccines as experimentation with the intention to cause harm. Using a history of medical racism, this theory builds upon concerns and broadens the audiences that the anti-vax conspiracy theories appeal to. Simone Gold, Kevin Jenkins, Robert Kennedy Jr., and Riza Islam support the vaccine experimentation theory. Riza Islam sells merchandise referencing the Tuskegee experiment, such as the shirt you see here. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. worked with Kevin Jenkins to produce an hour-long film called Medical Racism, the New Apartheid, detailing the vaccine experimentation theory. This video was advertised on Instagram and posted on Kennedy's organization's website, thechildren'shealthdefense.org. Kevin Jenkins' website shares speeches by Simone Gold, also talking about how the vaccine is part of medical racism. Traditional American values. Simone Gold appealed to traditional American values in a speech on the Uncensored Truth Tour, saying, how heartbroken will you be to lose your son or daughter to communism, to sit across the Christmas table or the Thanksgiving table with a raging communist who doesn't believe anything like you believe? She's serious, guys. Homeschooling has doubled this past year from 5.5% to 11%. Raising sensible, God-loving, patriotic human beings is the way out of this. This is how you fight. You stop your children from ingesting poison. She brings up the Christmas table and the Thanksgiving table, which are Christian or American holidays. She encourages raising God-loving, patriotic children. This is an appeal to Christian American values. She encourages families to homeschool their children. Later in the speech, she says that homeschooling is a right that Americans have and will continue to have, even as she claims every other constitutional right is under attack. And so another value is the right to do things yourself, not having the government involved by referencing the Constitution. These values are not wrong in themselves, but they strengthen support for conspiracy theories from those who already support these values. Financial incentives. These financial incentives play a major role in the spread of these theories. The information is spread in a very well-organized, well-funded way. The more people that information spreads to, the more that believe, the more that might be interested in buying products. The proponents of the theory appeal sincere, but regardless of if they are or not, the theories have a highly financial component. On Ty and Charlene Bollinger's website, thetruthaboutvaccines.com, you can buy videos explaining the truth about vaccines for hundreds of dollars. In fact, almost all the individuals I've mentioned today have a store where you can buy products or merchandise from their website. Joseph Mercola's store is massive enough that it's a website separate from where his articles are written. He sells vitamins, supplements, clothing, hygiene products, and even regular household items like towels and bed sheets. Mercola's website also offers information about why these products are preferable to the mainstream ones. Proponents of conspiracy theory often collaborate in selling products. Sherry Tenpenny's Sherry Tempany advertises for the Bollingers' videos, as well as supports Michael Lindell's pillow business. Lindell supports some conspiracy theories, but isn't focused on the COVID-19 vaccine. Some also offer subscription to a newsletter or ask for donations. Simone Gold's organization asks you to donate with the answer to the question, what's freedom worth to you? Understanding conspiracy theories is the first step to understanding how we should respond to them. They are complex systems of belief that build communities. These communities are built through connections between creators of conspiracy theory content and those who engage with that content through books, documentaries, social media, tours, and speeches. The distrust that fuels conspiracy theories should not be simply dismissed. In examples such as the medical racism concerns, where the vaccine could be an experiment, the distrust comes from a history of legitimate medical racism, and the response shouldn't try to ignore that fact. The hope is that in the future, we are moving towards increased trust in institutions and between individuals, but also a future where those institutions or individuals deserve that trust. Thank you.
Okay, hope that's good. Okay, so I chose this topic of Alex Jones and Sandy Hook because of the implications that it is currently having for free speech and for internet online journaling as a whole. And I wanted to preface with difficulties talking in person, so I hope I don't stumble over my words too hard or too difficultly, but yeah. So to begin, for those that don't know, the Sandy Hook Elementary School mass shooting took place at approximately 9:30 a.m. December 14th, 2012 in Newtown, Connecticut. Adam Lanza entered the school with a Bushmaster AR-15 style assault rifle and a Sig Sauer 9mm after killing his mother in her sleep sometime before that in the morning. In less than 10 minutes, he had killed 20 first graders and 6 educators, after which he took his own life. This elementary school mass shooting is the deadliest in US history and the 4th deadliest mass shooting overall. Following this tragedy, President Barack Obama gave a statement ensuring attention and care towards the survivors and the families of the victims, as well as the availability of resources towards Governor Malloy of Newtown. That same day, many news stations covered the shooting. James Barron, writing for the New York Times, reported the emotional toll taken on the town and on the police investigation, with interviews and many heartbreaking pictures of the families, friends, and neighbors of the victims. The primary question was why this happened. Barron asked an investigator just this question, and the investigator replied, "I don't think anybody knows the answers to those questions at this point of why this happened, how could he have done it, and things like that." The official said, and as for a possible motive, he added, "We don't know much for sure." This was the common thread through all of the reports coming from the Washington Post, CNN, NPR, CNBC, and ABC News, each providing different perspectives, pictures, information. However, none could answer why. That is the common thread, yeah. However, these reports were not the only coverage Sandy Hook received, and unfortunately, the call of conspiracy sounded quickly, and they could answer why it happened. Within hours, various social media sites and alternative media outlets began to spread conspiracies. Press TV, Talking Memo Points, SOTS.net, and lastly, InfoWars, the topic of this presentation. InfoWars was one of the most vocal and consistent voices in the conspiratorial talking points of Sandy Hook. So, before I get to InfoWars specifically, I like to cover other conspiracy theories that were spread surrounding the topic. So Press TV was at the front of the anti-Semitic conspiracies. It is the first Iranian international news network headquartered in Tehran. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Press TV claims a vision of embracing and building bridges of cultural understanding and encouraging human beings of different nationalities, races, and creeds to identify with one another. However, Press TV published and encouraged theories of Israeli death squads. On December 18, 2012, Press TV interviewed Mike Harris, the financial editor of Veterans Today. In it, he claims that the Zionist-controlled media and Hollywood have intentionally spread messages of mass violence into every American home to create a culture of violence. In his own words, it is because it comes from the Jews in Hollywood. From SOT.net, the LIBOR conspiracy theory stated that the fathers involved in the Aurora mass shooting and the Sandy Hook mass shooting were both connected and due to appear in court over a LIBOR fixed rate scandal. It's very difficult to find exactly what this conspiracy theory talks about because it's primarily on social media and it's almost all taken down. But essentially, they both worked at higher ranks in banks and financial institutions, and I'm not exactly sure where they got the notion for this, because the article itself says that they have zero, or here's the actual quote, they have as yet zero evidence to support this notion, but the article was still published. The LIBOR conspiracy theory spread through lesser-known channels and forums and primarily discussed on social media. So, on the very same day as the Sandy Hook shooting, InfoWars published 2 articles. In the first, author Kurt Nimmo cites the drone wars that President Barack Obama had conducted in Pakistan. The toll of these strikes was estimated to be between 2,562 and 3,325 people killed. Nimmo claims that with this blood on his hands, the President of the United States had faked compassion for the deaths of the elementary school students. Other national leaders echo his false feelings and engaged in public displays of emotion to convince Americans of their benevolence and understanding. Alex Jones endorsed this article in video clip, and the link calls it an Alex Jones rant. The second article by InfoWars was titled "Gun Grabbers Call for Murder of NRA President Supporters in Wake of Mass Shooting," and began the conspiracy that America's Second Amendment was under attack. Melissa Melton begins the article by saying that people on Twitter were blaming the National Rifle Association and the Second Amendment, and not the individual with free will. Some called for stricter gun control regulations and laws, while others openly called for the murder of the NRA president, David Keene. Arguing against the call for stricter gun control, another article by InfoWars is cited in that first. This article, "Gun Control Increases Gun Crime," argues exactly that. However, it's a short 2 paragraphs with 2 events in which a law is passed against gun ownership, followed by a mass shooting occurring sometime after, maybe a month, maybe a year. And the article provides no evidence that these are linked to each other, and instead simply states that they are linked and then links the event itself. And this is a common theme in the ways that InfoWars reports on many topics, with shoddy evidence and not great connections between everything. So moving on to that is, how did or why does Alex Jones and InfoWars spread conspiracies so quickly on so many mass tragic events? And Alex Jones himself, as a person and as a public figure, has many intentionally disconnected and obscure pieces. He's quick to state his view and fiercely disagrees with the views of others. However, his online presence intensifies every aspect of this personality. InfoWars, the media outlet that Jones created and owns, spreads conspiracy theories very quickly and creates very many of them as well. It is adapted to the internet and learned to survive in this new environment of information, and has found a unique way to capitalize on the already existing conspiracy theory community. And then how they come to capitalize on this is the next part I'm moving into. Let's see. I'm sorry. So they have a separate website called InfoWarsStore.com, which claims to be able to solve all of the problems that conspiracy theories present through books or alternative medicine, much like the ones in yours, or through self-defense weapons or preparatory items. And let's see. I'm sorry, I don't exactly have that. But what happens next is in around 2017, Alex Jones is sued for defamation by the families of Sandy Hook. And in 2019, we start to see the first public aspects of this with the depositions of Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, and Rob Dew. Paul Joseph Watson is InfoWars editor-at-large. He controls the majority of the articles and pieces that get published by InfoWars, as well as provides counsel to Alex Jones on things that should be published, should not be published, and they usually have a back and forth. During these depositions was a time for Jones to shine and prove his conspiracy theories, the truth that he has, and his often claim that he's awakening the public to the New World Order. However, this doesn't happen. In a truly underwhelming fashion, Jones, Watson, and Dew, and InfoWars at large, buckles and breaks at every level of investigation and questioning. Rob Dew was there to present Free Speech Systems LLC, the parent company of InfoWars, and his inaccurate statements begin only 2 minutes into the deposition when he says, "I am prepared to discuss topic A, sourcing and research for the videos described in plaintiff's petition, and B, internal editorial discussions regarding free speech systems, coverage of Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting." At every point throughout his deposition, Dew fails to provide any sources, materials, research, or a basic understanding of the procedures and expectations of a deposition. During Paul Joseph Watson's deposition, a very important piece of information comes to light. In February 2013, Leonard Posner sent an email to InfoWars which describes the harassments of his family that was due to the conspiracies InfoWars spread, and had asked them to stop encouraging this behavior, or hopefully stop it entirely. Watson admits to being the writer of the email that InfoWars sent back to Posner. However, during Alex Jones's deposition, he says that he was also on that email, saying that Jones was aware of the harassment as early as February 2013, and yet every month since 2012 until now, Alex Jones has mentioned or talked about or incited Sandy Hook at least twice, rising in 2015 due to the lawsuits, 2017 again, and 2019 because of the depositions, knowing full well that they're being harassed because of the things he was saying. During Alex Jones's deposition, many different topics and themes come up that's very similar to his online personality, which is like being disconnected, being obscure on purpose, and intentionally mixing up facts and opinions. They actually somewhat argue over the difference between a fact or an opinion. And he seems unable or unwilling to describe the difference for a good reason. If he gave a clear answer, many parts of his live show would become problematic as determined by his own definition. Furthermore, what exactly is Jones doing with his show? In his own words, he says he's just sharing his feelings and thinking about events in the world we live in, and then sharing his opinion to the world. However, this is not at all the appearance of his online show, nor the way he presents himself. So he has no journalistic ends in mind, as well as agreeing himself that InfoWars has no journalistic
just like you just give me a sense of the balance of sincerity and mercenary attitudes. If you can.
Yeah, so I had that question myself for much of the review of, does he actually believe what he's saying, or is this just an inspired, on-the-spot rant? And there's been a few events that definitely swings it towards absolute sincerity, where he would go to a Democratic election at Washington, D.C., and heckle and harass voted officials in front of like 50 members of the press, and then they either need to walk away and leave the room, or he won't stop talking to them for like hours. I think he did it for like an hour and a half one day. And I'm not sure if he 100% believes everything that he's saying, but I'm also not sure if it really matters because his listeners believe what he's saying. And definitely the profit he's making off of it. They're estimated to made like $40 million in 2019 alone, and altogether possibly $120 million. So I think after a certain point, maybe he believes it. He started in like 2007, funding his own movie, going all the way up until now. Yeah, I'm not sure, probably 80% believes it.
So this question is for Elena. As you were researching these vax conspiracies, did you at any point think, wow, that's kind of persuasive? Did you kind of see why people might believe them? And did you ever get tempted to think that there was something to it? And my second part is, what would you tell a family member or friend who bought into the chip and the vaccine conspiracy? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so there was points where I, especially with reading Kennedy's book about Anthony Fauci and about the big pharma side of the conspiracy theory with hydroxychloroquine, because there are probably many ways we could critique pharmaceutical companies or just the way that medicine is practiced in our country. So there's a lot of ways that that's very persuasive, and they take an approach that's trying to look more at like the it's almost like a pseudoscience-y field where you have the same appeals of being highly logical, listing out tons of facts, tons of lawsuits, things like that make it pretty persuasive. But I will say there's definitely a difference between the kind of the common ground I found with that conspiracy theory versus actually believing in it. It's usually like the extent of the corruption that you believe in, how much of it's intentional and how much of it is better explained through other reasons. As far as the second question, what would I tell someone who had believed in the chip and the vaccine? I think that, it's understandable to be confused upon hearing so much information surrounding something like this, the way that they're so well organized in spreading these ideas. But it does kind of come down to religious differences. I probably can't appeal to, I wouldn't want to dismiss anyone's beliefs about the mark of the beast, for example. But, there are other sources, Christians who would advocate for reasons why the vaccine isn't the mark of the beast, or why the microchip isn't the mark of the beast, even if it was there, that I think are probably important to people who believe in that.
The question. Oh, sorry. So my question is, it seems to be the case a lot of the times when dealing with people who are like really into conspiracy theories, that if you present them with, here's where you're wrong on the facts, that tends to do very little to actually persuade them to stop believing in the conspiracy theories. And so my question is, to what degree, when dealing with like conspiracy theories where it's like widespread and on social media, is it about finding different tactics to try and like convince them to stop believing these things versus just like minimizing the harm that they can do to other people? And I guess in sort of a social media context, is it like just ban them or try to like talk to them and convince them otherwise? And I guess either of you can take that question.
So yeah, this question, it comes in like definitely what we've been researching. I feel like this is an obvious thing to think about. It's a concern to see how widespread these theories are, knowing what we should do about them. I think that the response that we should have is different for those people who already believe in conspiracy theories and those who are in a more middle ground, they don't know, or they're just being exposed to different ideas but are maybe partially persuaded. Because for the conspiracy theorists, we do see this like familiarity with opposition, that it's almost part of the theory that you're going to receive opposition, and there's no way that no amount of facts that is likely to make you pause and reevaluate your beliefs. And so when it comes to those people, I think we definitely need to, I mean, if we feel that there is a need to try and go in and change their minds, it wouldn't be effective to just present facts. It comes down to building a foundation of trust, and I would say that it's almost impossible for someone to change their mind unless you already have the foundation of trust, so someone that they already know coming to them and talking to them with respect, not just dismissing them. And then for those people who might be exposed to information on social media but haven't yet made up their minds, there are different ways that we can suggest that social media companies have different policies surrounding misinformation. But again, I think that part of just getting rid of those accounts might fuel the conspiracy theory on the other end. It might be evidence for the theory that you're being expressed. So in that way, it's probably not the ideal option. But there's always, linking, fact-checking sources to posts that might be flagged, or some sort of sharing of, repeating the information from like a scientific consensus upon like exposure to misinformation, instead of having algorithms that just repeatedly show you more of that same kind of thread.
And to answer your question, I believe the first part was, do you just interact with them directly and disprove their facts, or the second one is work on the effects they have on the internet. For the families of Sandy Hook, their answer was the second one, and I think I agree. Leonard Posner, one of the fathers of his son who died, started a nonprofit organization called the Honor Network, and they work on DMCA striking all content that involves pictures of the children or stories about them. Like the majority of Alex Jones's videos were taken down because of that. But the larger effect is they work on making sure that on Google, the Sandy Hook conspiracy theories don't appear first or second or 10th. They push them as far back as possible. Of like, you can't interact with them like you were saying. Just try your best to either take attention away from them or start to promote the what actually happened, or the other types of stories that aren't as volatile as conspiracy theories. I hope that helps.
I had closer than I thought it would be. Sorry, I had kind of a similar follow-up to Claire's, and I'm in a similar position where you might have already answered it or gone into some detail. But with Alex Jones or a lot of these people that can get a following on like mass media such as YouTube, Spotify, whatever, but then are taken out of the, I guess, market of free ideas and put into more of an insular community. I was exposed to Alex Jones through like watching. I watched like 3 or 4 of his Joe Rogan interviews, and that was kind of the only way I would have been able to access him in the position that I was at the time. And then I've seen a few InfoWars episodes since then, but it's much harder for me to access InfoWars because I have to go to a different site, and like they kind of have, like you were saying, their own whole system worked out. Do you think that makes it, like it would definitely create an echo chamber, but do they have any issues with getting new people in? Or are new people willing to seek that out and go towards like, I know there's different types of YouTube for like gun channels, if you want to show content that's like not for YouTube but just about firearms, and so it's against the community guidelines, then like you have your whole space for that. Does that tend to, I is there any impediment to blocking these people from main sources and then also because then you can interact with them? I guess that's what I'm kind of asking is where's the trade-off between interaction and blocking someone?
It's kind of a difficult question to answer because most online modern day conspiracy theories aren't about convincing non-believers. They're about reinforcing and bringing identity or new conspiracies to already current believers. So on one hand, banning them, like Alex Jones in 2018 got banned from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all Apple services, most podcasts. I'm like really surprised he's still on Joe Rogan. Like he had 2 interviews, right? Like 2019, 2020.
And but he still is able to get onto Joe Rogan and have his videos published and say everything that he would. And so then it's like I went to InfoWars and found out that Alex was blocked because I was watching that Joe Rogan episode along with probably 7 million, 8 million people that weekend.
Yeah. Like,
So
I think along with it, just they already kind of had their own, I guess you could say, ideological ecosystem. And then all you need to do is come out like once or twice, like once on Joe Rogan, once a year, and then everybody's like, they got banned everywhere. There must be something there, you know, and then everybody flocks over there. And yeah, I guess that's the other hand is the fact that they have their own ecosystem separated from everything else kind of does more harm than good because once you're in it, they just link you to their own friendly websites and other people, and then you don't go back to YouTube to the regular ideological area, I guess.
Just to confirm the point, I guess, that there is this like ecosystem, that platform Rumble, that it was like YouTube. It's pretty much like full of a lot of these conspiracy theorists who don't have a platform somewhere else. And it's funny because I had a problem of not being able to find any of this information on conspiracy theories until I got into that ecosystem, and then I could find all sorts of things. So I do think like maybe it is in strengthening the believers who already are there. They definitely do have running out of time. So
Yeah. Thank you again to get everyone.